The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. It is finally Friday, and it's September 29th, and today is National Gay Men's HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, Urban National Wildlife Refuge Day, National VFW Day, and, oh, yeah, all your favorite. That's right. It's also National Coffee Day. Good old Joe. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top-hand corner of your screen to see where we live on the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube. And now we're also streaming on Twitch, Facebook, Twitch, and Rumble. Oh, and Twitter. Sorry, Twitter and Twitch. Yes, but I'm gonna start this whole thing off today, you guys. I have a pretty interesting story, and I'm really interested to hear what Dr. Talleyrand and Dr. Mark have to say in regards to this, because there's a headline that's coming out that's just saying that did researchers just solve one of the mysteries of getting high? It's been long road and difficult to test for THC intoxication, but now a new saliva test could totally change that. In early September, researchers Vakam, I can't even pronounce the rest of his name, Nathan, and can't pronounce the rest of his name either, and Dr. Shalini of the University of Texas at Dallas announced the creation of Cannabis Sense. Cannabis Sense, okay? A handheld saliva-based rapid test capable of accurately measuring a person's THC levels 94% of the time. Well, what's up with the other 6%? But the device took inspiration at home from home glucose readers used by diabetics, and the technology makes significant strides in cannabinoid detection with its capabilities to separate readings for THCA, psychoactive cannabinoid, and CBD, a non-psychoactive cannabinoid. The innovation has led to speculation that both dosing and public safety concerns could soon lessen. But in an interview with Rolling Stone, Dr. Prasad said that while the innovation may one day play a part in impairment tests, the team sees it most promising potential in the medical space, helping people find their unique dosage. But before the device can be put to use in any space, Dr. Prasad said it needs 12 to 18 months more research to better understand its capabilities and strategic partners to further aid in its development. And so there's a few different questions that they ask in this. And this is a very, very, very long article, and you can check it out at our website, www.highat9news.com. But a couple of the questions that they asked I did find particularly interesting, and so I'm gonna read those in regards to what they asked. And they said, I think some people will see this news and immediately say they found a cannabis DWI test and everything is solved now. And the doctor says, it's not something I decide. He says, it's not a mousetrap at all. That's not the purpose. And perhaps if there is a need and there is all the regulation that says you have to build that, then this could be used in that space. which I found extremely interesting. And in regards to how do other minor cannabinoids and terpenes factor in this factor for cannabis sense? He says this is an ongoing effort, and cannabis consumption is actually a very complex and heterogeneous response profile. I know I probably murdered that word. I'm sorry, you guys. If you can add them all in, what is it?
Heterogeneous.
Yes, that is it. Heterogeneous. Thank you, doctor. Response profile. If you can add them all in, then we can truly give you a total profile of psychoactivity and when the signal will start to drop. We're not there yet, but you are kind of in a sense of reading my mind, the doctor says. And one of the other questions that I wanted to read that they asked is, so is it real? So it really was just about trying to simplify cannabinoid readings and making it accessible for everyone. And the doctor says, yeah. The way I see it, we all try to hack our own bodies, right? Understand how we are metabolizing things and what's happening. That's what a continuous glucose monitor dose does, and it exactly tells you how your glucose is. You don't need to be an addict to want to understand your metabolism and improve your peak performance, right? He also says the amount of cannabis you're consuming matters, especially in the medical case, and those are the kind of things that interest me in trying to understand, solve, and build objective tools that help people better understand what's actually happening. Well, I think this is some pretty crazy news that they're going to be able to just get this stuff out of your saliva, especially when cannabis causes people to get cottonmouth. And what do you guys have to say about this? This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think about this?
So interesting, especially your cottonmouth comment, Jason.
Right?
I'm sure they've solved it somehow, but this is not a DWI test. This is a pharmacokinetic test. It's to learn what level of THC or CBD is in your system after using. Does that correlate to poor driving? Nobody's said that yet. And does that correlate to how psychoactive it is? That's still also yet undetermined. I've known people who have dosed high levels of cannabis and don't report any psychoactive effect, and people who've dosed low levels of cannabis and report a psychoactive effect. So it really is user dependent and not so much what your saliva test is showing.
Fascinating. I just have a feeling that these guys, once they start to run out of money, they're going to file for some type of grant money and implement this type of thing as a roadside test for law enforcement. And then that's how they're going to get the grant money to finish out the project and everything else. And then it'll be mass produced for every cop car in America.
Yes, but as the good doctor says, until they correlate this in a statistically significant fashion to driver impairment, this is only just a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, but don't they already do that? Because they already arrest people and try to say that if they were driving under cannabis, that they were giving them a ticket for drugged driving.
It depends on the law. There's some laws that are per se, you have anything in your system and you're just automatically guilty, which really sucks for patients. And it's usually patients who don't get high, they get better. It's well people that get high. And yes, there's definitely different sensitivities for different individuals, how their livers uptake. And I really want to point also that all of the results of all of these, the swab tests and they're looking for active metabolites, and method of ingestion matters here. The method of ingestion that causes, in my humble opinion, the most performance issues, which is edibles, because it's more like tripping on acid, and you combine that with alcohol or any other drug, and it is absolutely a buoyed effect. That those metabolic tests that are common right now don't even peak. It's almost non-identifiable, where you smoke a little weed and it spikes up, makes you look like you can't even walk a straight line. So the difference between eating and inhaling, ingesting and inhaling, is entirely different on the results of the metabolites that are picked up from these saliva tests and have absolutely no correlation to how it is affecting your ability to drive or operate heavy machinery, et cetera, et cetera. So the
If
drug
that
dependency
person
experts is really the way to go.
if that person is given an impairment field test, they'll likely fail. And that's the DWI.
Yep.
That is the
Exactly.
DWI.
Correlating
It
it,
doesn't matter
correlating
what
it back
supplements
to the
you're-
amount of cannabinoids in the blood is something that needs to happen in order for them to be able to make these assessments. And there they could basically come up with blood cannabinoid test to prove impairment, because at this level of, say 11 hydroxycannabinoid in the bloodstream, you are going to be physically impaired, so where you cannot drive, but it cannot be universally applied to all users. So that's why they have to do the study with a statistically wide swath of population of users.
If you're talking to someone with MS, they could absolutely have that much in their system, and that is what actually makes them capable to drive. So that is the ultimate problem here. And I agree with you, doctor. It is about drug recognition, because it's the combination of whatever you took this morning, last night, that Ambien. We're not swabbing for Ambien, and I think that is the problem on Monday mornings even more than Friday nights on alcohol anymore. So we really do, lack of sleep and texting is at least as dangerous. It is really about performance, not about ingestion, what is in your system. It's about how you perform.
What if you're talking to text, Dale?
One more time?
What if you're talking to text? What if you're using talk to text? Is that really as dangerous as texting?
It's distracting.
It's distracting.
They need to do a study to find out. And
Yeah.
they probably are conducting that study right now.
But I think there's something to that too, because I remember back when I was a teenager taking driving school lessons so I could get a discount on my insurance, that one of the lessons was don't be bullshitting with your dumbass friends in the car while you're driving, because that's a distraction. So, it's, yes, two hands, what is it, 2 and 10, or now 3 and
10 and 2.
6,
10 and 2.
3 and 9 in case, no, it's actually 3 and 9 if you have airbags, because the 2 and 10 will break your arms, right?
Oh, I do remember them
Forget-
switching that up when the airbags came out. Yeah. Yeah, I
stay up.
got taught with 10 and 2 was the times 10 and 2.
Which is where you keep your hands when you are pulled over by an officer.
Yes.
That is still true.
That part is facts.
Especially
right
if you're
there.
darker than me. Yes.
Oh boy, anybody, 10 and 2 is where you want to keep your hands so they can see your hands, that you're not fumbling around reaching for pistols and firearms and knives and stuff like that could ultimately hurt them. Or even your registration, which actually could hurt them if they wanted to give you a ticket. But any thoughts on this?
I
Gretchen?
am excited about this study in one sense.
Mhm.
We tried to test the different products and do PK tests, see the level of THC that's effective, or the level of a product that's effective. And usually we're having to do blood tests. So if we can do a saliva test, that might really help in terms of research. So there's a positive to this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure, Dr. Talleyrand. More information is good.
Yeah, any thoughts on this, Gretchen?
Nope.
No?
Leaving it to the experts. I only like to talk about things I know, Jason Beck.
You don't know about saliva?
No,
Oh, okay.
not in this context.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I just wondered, did you get cottonmouth when you were smoking up there at the Canny Fest?
No, not at all.
You did not.
I'm a champ, unlike you.
He's a professional.
She did not. Her eyes got red, but she did not get cottonmouth.
Dude,
Interesting.
Get over it.
Interesting.
It could be the type of weed.
It probably was. It probably didn't really get her high. Her eyes just her eyes just got red from all that smoke rolling in her eyeballs.
Jason, I think you just need to hydrate more, man. Drink a glass of water.
That's the problem, yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Relying on 25 years of commercial hydroponic experience, King Solomon Nutrients has engineered the best liquid and dry fertilizer products for cannabis that preserves the crop, the soil, and the environment. Through relentless passion, research, and innovation, King Solomon has developed simplified cannabis crop nutrition you can trust. It was created for farmers, by farmers. Don't mess around. Try the crown.
Yes, coming up next, that's right, it's Gretchen Gailey. She's the founder of Panoptic Strategies and our very own Washington Insider, and she has been prancing around Washington, D.C., gallivanting for safe banking up and down the hill all week. And so we want to thank her for her efforts and see what she has to share with us today. That's right, it's none other than the Gretchen Gailey.
All right, number one, Jason, I don't prance. I don't know where you're coming up with this stuff, but you're a fool. All right, my headline. I'm sticking with safe banking, and I'm going to stick with it till the day I die. I didn't feel like I got to dive very deeply into it yesterday talking on a street corner. So we're going to go a little more into what took place and what good old Schumer is promising. Schumer touts bipartisan momentum behind marijuana banking bill that he plans to bring to the floor soon with more criminal justice provisions. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said the bipartisan committee vote to advance a marijuana banking bill on Wednesday underscores how much momentum we have right now, as he plans to bring the legislation to the floor soon and attach very significant criminal justice provisions. In a floor speech yesterday, Schumer said he's really proud of the bipartisan deal we produced ahead of the Safe Banking Committee markup that saw the Secure and Fair Enforcement Regulation Banking Act pass in a 14-9 vote. The next step is to bring safer banking to the floor for a vote, which I will do soon. I worked long and hard for years to get us to this point, and now the Senate is one step and one crucial step closer to helping cannabis businesses operate more efficiently, more safely, and more transparently in the states that allow cannabis to be sold. Safer Banking's bipartisan vote in the Banking Committee underscores how much momentum we have right now on cannabis banking and how important the issue is for so many business owners and communities across the country. No industry has the ability to thrive if its businesses can't access basic banking infrastructure, especially not an industry growing as quickly and one as new as the cannabis industry. The majority leader also reaffirmed his commitment to attaching criminal justice reform provisions to the legislation. While he didn't specify and said he'd talk more about that at a later time, he previously described adding measures to incentivize state-level cannabis expungements and protect gun rights for marijuana consumers. Cannabis must always be the business of promoting entrepreneurs, promoting small businesses, promoting job growth. Safer banking will do that precisely in the cannabis industry. Connect cannabis businesses to resources like bank accounts and small business loans, creating a safer and more transparent environment in which they can grow. When I go to the floor, we will add very significant criminal justice provisions to the bill as well, and that is important as well. While the committee passage of the cannabis banking bill has received substantial bipartisan praise, other lawmakers have been seen critical of the revised deal, and some are questioning whether it will even make it to the House of Representatives. Excuse me. Senator Raphael Warnock, a member of the Banking Committee, filed a pair of amendments at Wednesday's meeting meant to bolster the bill's equity provisions, but they were not adopted, leading the senator to vote against the legislation, as well as taking the unusual step of opposing a standard motion to allow staff to make technical and conforming amendments to get the measure in shape for the floor. Let's be clear, the Safer Banking Bill only makes life safer for the bankers and businesses, some of whom have been illegally profiting off of cannabis for years, while regular folks sit in jail cells for using or selling cannabis. Warnock said in an X post on Wednesday. Another amendment that was defeated based on a ruling that was not germane to the committee came from Senator Bill Hagerty. It would have created additional civil penalties for marijuana operators that are involved in illicit fentanyl and methamphetamine trafficking. This is a very real concern. These cartels are moving fentanyl and methamphetamine right alongside marijuana sales, and there's a loophole in this law, Hagerty said on Wednesday. I'm shocked that this committee is willing to let this go through. This is supporting fentanyl and methamphetamine sales. This is an easy fix. I'm shocked at the result here. Senator Mike Rounds, another Banking Committee member who voted against the bill, told Politico, I don't think this legislation leaves the Senate anyway. I just don't think this has legs at all. Senator John Cornyn, who opposes marijuana reform, criticized the Democratic majority for focusing on the cannabis banking measure. As Congress seeks to avoid #Schumer shutdown, this is his priority. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says now is the time for Congress to pass legislation that would allow banks and credit unions to work with legal cannabis industry, he said in a post on X. But other congressional lawmakers, as well as top state officials, are expressing optimism about the bill's path forward, which they say is necessary from a financial and public safety perspective. The inability of state legalized cannabis businesses to access banking services is dangerous, according to Senator Kevin Cramer. Operating as a cash-only enterprise is perfectly fine for my grandkids' lemonade stand, but it is inadequate for an industry this controversial. Senator Jackie Rosen said that outdated federal law continues to prevent the industry from accessing fundamental services like banking and insurance, and the Safer Banking Act will help to right this wrong. Yada, yada, yada. It keeps going on and on about people trying to jump on the bandwagon, just like good old Chuck Schumer is pretending that he's been working on this issue for years. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about and what he has been, where he came up with this. Maybe he's having some senior moments like good old Mitch. I do expect this to come for a vote on the Senate floor. I don't care what people say. John Cornyn is just a pain in the ass. Hashtag Schumer shutdown. It's coming for a vote. I think it has the legs, despite what they say. There are plenty of Republicans out there who said they are not going to filibuster this thing and the votes to do it. As for Raphael Warnock, I have no problem with the man arguing for social equity. It'd be nice if he had said something before the other day. It's the first time he's ever spoke out against it. What I would like to see is for him to put forward his own legislation to do it. This is where Congress gets into trouble, is trying to tack a whole lot of shit onto a bill that it's not supposed to be a part of. And that's why things fail. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
Oh, man, Gretchen. Man, oh, man, oh, man. That's a good little synopsis of all the little action on Capitol Hill going on yesterday. Then, and I agree with you, Senator Raphael Warnock. If you're really serious about social equity, why don't you introduce some legislation in regards to maybe partner up with Cory Booker and you guys can grandstand together on social equity issues?
Well, and honestly, as much as Cory Booker annoys the hell out of me at times, I don't have as much of an issue with someone who's actually done something. Cory Booker has been advocating and working on this issue for years, unlike Chuck Schumer.
That's true.
So when he wants to stand up and criticize shit, fine. But when you're Raphael Warnock and have no cannabis businesses to answer to in your state, so you can be a jag-off and fuck up a bill, that pisses me off. So the man has done nothing before on this issue. If he wants to come out and be a champion for social equity, great. We need more champions for social equity in the Senate, but actually do it where it could actually matter and help, not keep good businesses from getting access to banking that they desperately need. I don't care about who else it's going to help. I care about the small businesses that it will help.
Hell yeah, Gigi. And can I also just underline that the number one thing that especially social equity owned businesses need is safe banking. They are the ones that don't get banked. They're already underbanked because of the communities that they come from and serve. They need safe banking more than anyone. This truly serves those businesses. They are the small businesses that we speak of.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that too, Dale. That safe banking is a social equity type of issue. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, there's a vig on banking some of these businesses that is criminal. It's like trying to bank with check cashing lenders. That is what we're talking about here. That is who we are pushing these small businesses into because there is a failure to. And if you really care about tracking and tracing the money, if you really care about trafficking, then track and trace the effing money through banks. Like, this is insanity that we are intentionally pushing it into cash stuffed under your mattress and then bitching that we don't know where the money is. We are creating the problem with this policy.
Totally. We totally are. But I also have to wonder too, if this could also just be a big old setup for everybody in cannabis with all of their 280E liabilities that they owe, that as soon as they all get their bank accounts, the IRS is just going to come in and just drain them because they're owed money.
Well, the IRS is already underwater, and being shut down in a couple days ain't gonna help.
Oh, I hope they get shut down. I hope the IRS is shut down.
IRS workers coming to shut down cannabis anytime soon.
Just so you know,
when it comes to people
they can
who
do that
are
at the computer.
About what?
They can do that at the computer. All it takes is a couple keystrokes for them to take all the money out of your bank.
Okay, clearly you don't have to deal with the IRS much. It's very difficult to talk to these people and get shit actually done because nobody's working there.
Gretchen, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you how quick they take my money in a federal rate. Yes.
Does rescheduling, like they're talking about doing, which is outside the auspices of Congress, fix safe banking?
No.
No.
What if they were to reschedule to Schedule 3, like what has been proposed, that will help in regards to 280E, but it has nothing to do with banking.
And I don't know how you guys feel, but I don't think that it's a fair trade to get Schedule 3 for 280E relief. I don't think that's a fair deal at all, because every
No,
single
there's going to
person,
be a different
every single,
mountain of regulatory problems.
well, also too,
Banks are
deal.
still not going to want to interact with cannabis businesses. It's still going to keep doors closed. Rescheduling doesn't help to fix the finance issues.
Mm-hmm.
Can I remind us too, it's not illegal to bank legal cannabis businesses. The FDIC they didn't say you can't. They said you have to know your customer's customer. They just made it ridiculously difficult and scared the shit out of most bankers so that they either do it quietly when nobody's looking, and as soon as they're outed as a cannabis bank or a bank that banks cannabis, they exit all the people that are out loud. So this is a shell game of banking. The people that have the money don't have a problem finding banks, and the banks are not, they're illegal to bank them.
I mean, there
Would-
is FinCEN
just there.
guidelines that Dale's completely right. Allows all this to go down. They just don't want to deal with it. And
So-
they can just say, for no reason at all, I don't like you, and shut you down. And
Yep.
that is something that's safe.
That
banking
is
will
true.
stop.
That is true. I've
So
seen that happen.
just as a follow-up question, would descheduling fix safe
Yes.
banking?
Yes.
It would fix all of it.
Could
It would
fix
fix
all of it.
2BE. It would
Yes.
fix banking. It would fix research. It would fix safe access for veterans. It would fix safe access for patients. It would fix taking the teeth out of the criminality of all the people that are still rotting in prison, and change that conversation. Yes.
Yes.
Descheduling is what fixes all of these things. Does it create another quagmire? Certainly. But that is the quagmire I hope to address, because as long as it is on that schedule under the DEA, we will continue to have these problems. It is a bureaucracy, not an agency.
Very,
Well,
very, very
and-
true.
And while, we all like to talk about descheduling, I will say descheduling is not in Washington's vocabulary. They don't understand it. They don't get the concept. They are confused between descheduling versus legalization. Truly, when people are upset that all we're getting done right now is safe banking, I say to them, this is a long game. And frankly, we need to get on the board. And cannabis isn't on the board at all. So yes, this may not be a home run, but maybe it's a double. Maybe it's a
It's a
triple.
start. It's
and
a start.
frankly, we got fucking pitchers in our lineup. We don't have any home run hitters in this fucking industry.
I
Not
am.
yet.
I'm a home run hitter.
Okay, bless your heart, Jason Beck.
Mm-hmm.
We truly need to put some money behind this and real efforts and make cannabis an issue that matters to Congress. And when people are getting polled and they're going to the voting polls and it's like, what matters to you? And they're talking abortion, they're talking healthcare, they're talking immigration. Cannabis is number 36 on their list. What we need to make Congress and voters understand is that cannabis is applicable to immigration. It is applicable to healthcare. It is applicable in all aspects of our lives. And until we can get that message across to these people and why we need to be a part of this, part of fucking society and not fucking blackballed and left up, hiding and humbled, nothing's going to get done. And it's time for people to really stand up and do something.
Facts.
Gigi, I'm so glad you said that. And it affects everything that is in your top 10, whatever it is, that we are robbing resources from Peter to pay Paul on prohibition. You said something really important, that descheduling is not in the vocabulary. And I know we actually teach a class on this at Oaksterdam. I think you nailed it, that descheduling, they don't understand the concept of descheduling. And what we need to do is explain, we're going to take it away from the DEA and put it with the ATF. And I feel like something like that, oh, I get that. My concern is putting the whole kit and caboodle under the FDA is not the answer.
That is definitely
and
not
so
the
maybe
answer.
we do need to start just same thing, different verbiage, so that they can wrap their brain around it. And I'm now president of your fan club.
You know who does support descheduling cannabis, Gretchen on the Hill, is my good buddy That's right, Matt Gaetz. That's right, big
Well, why
supporter
the
of
fuck doesn't he
descheduling.
propose some
Yes.
legislation that actually matters and keep the government fucking running so something can get done, Jason Beck?
I'm all fine with the government getting shut down. I'm all with it. That's less money that
I
they're
know
going to
you
spend. I'm
are.
so for that. But nonetheless, we got to move right on in to Dr. Gene Talleyrand. He's the industry OG with a proven track record representing people with the utmost compassion. Also the founder of Medican and the co-founder of the nonprofit cannabis research organization, the CESC. He probably wrote your parents' recommendation. That's right. It is none other than the Dr. Gene Talleyrand.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. My headline today comes from Medical Express. New studies suggest growing use of cannabis to help manage menopause symptoms. Not so long ago, young adults were the primary users of cannabis. The reality today, however, is that women and adults age 50 plus represent the fastest growing group of cannabis users. A study presented during the 2023 annual meeting of the Menopause Society in Philadelphia confirms the frequent use of cannabis by midlife women to manage an array of menopause symptoms. Cannabis use is increasing across all age groups. Past research largely focused on usage habits by men and young adults. However, until now, little was known about the prevalence of cannabis use among women in and after menopause. A new study based on data from more than 5,000 midlife women analyzed the frequency, forms, and motives of cannabis by postmenopausal women. Over 40% reported ever using cannabis, most often for chronic pain, 28%, anxiety, 24%, sleep problems, 22%, and stress, 22%. 6% of women reported using cannabis specifically for menopause, targeting menopause-related mood and sleep difficulties. 10% of the study participants had used cannabis in the past 30 days, most often smoking, ingesting edibles, or using cannabis in more than one form. Among those with cannabis use in the past 30 days, 31% reported smoking cannabis on a daily or near daily basis, and 19% reported daily or near daily use of edibles. We know that cannabis products are being marketed to women to manage menopause symptoms. And these study findings suggest that midlife women are turning to cannabis. But we still do not know if cannabis use is actually helping or if it may be contributing to other challenges, says Dr. Carolyn Gibson, lead author and health services researcher at the University of California, San Francisco. So this is where I have to stop reading. Thankfully, the article is almost over. What bothers me are about Dr. Gibson's comments to the lack of common sense. Why would 40% of midlife women use cannabis if it was harmful? It's clearly helpful. The real question is, why is it helpful? Dr. Gibson's comments suggest the lack of trust of cannabis users who self-report its benefits. She claims that other factors may contribute to the use of cannabis, like the plant has a reefer madness-like demonic group on its users. Either way, I congratulate Dr. Gibson for completing an observational study on the use of cannabis among postmenopausal women and pointing out that they benefit from the plant. According to Dr. Stephanie Fobian, medical director of the Menopause Society, these findings highlight the need for recognizing and discussing cannabis in the healthcare setting. This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand for High at Night News.
Oh, man, oh, man. All I want to say is hello again.
That's what I was going to say. Where's Saman?
Yeah, I know. I wish Saman was on to come and comment on this, because hello again is formulated for women over 50 that are experiencing menopause and is a suppository for them that helps a number of women that I'm aware of. And I even know some women that were treating their cancer with this product and have had amazing results with it.
I just don't understand how someone can read this article and say that cannabis is problematic. It just, the whole safe banking discussion, and people who are opposed to it. Here's a large demographic folks who are finding it helpful.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Talleyrand, I would ask you, where do you think this bias comes from in the science and research world? You would think out of everyone in the crowd, they might be the most informed. So why are they so boo to cannabis?
Well, after 6, 7 decades of being told it's bad, it's hard for people to change. I think that's what it is, especially with the lack of education in medical schools or science or institutions. There's this assumption that there's something else going on and why people are using it, or that's got this real grip on you and that you have to use it. I think people want to use it. If they don't want to use it, they don't have to, and it does benefit them. So it's pretty clear, but it takes time to change minds. How long did it take for alcohol prohibition to reverse?
Actually, only 13 or 14 years. That was part of the problem, is they remembered what it was like before, and our grandmothers don't remember what it was like before.
How do you disprove the placebo effect argument?
What placebo effect argument? How do I?
Well, when you're saying that people just perceive that it, when you're suggesting that perhaps it's all in people's heads that cannabis works or whatever, how do you disprove that?
You do the traditional double-blind, randomly, controlled study. You do a prospective study. Right now, when they're doing observational studies, they're trying to make conclusions, or they're trying to build hypotheses on that they need to prove later on. So it's just sort of a first step approach to the research. And this first step approach is showing that women are using it and they're reporting benefit from it.
How would you?
I think
we need to understand why.
Dr. T, how would you do this double blind? How would you do this double blind? Would you roll up a joint of weed and then roll up a joint of oregano and give one to one person and one to another?
No,
Isn't that what the Sicily study was? The PTSD they NIDA provided. Yeah, it's a difficult one because of the immediate psychoactive effect of THC. Right away if you're using the placebo or not, and so it sort of gives you a hint.
Well, doesn't that just
there's
prove
other
its
beneficial
effectiveness?
constituents that are left over too that could be having an effect. And some of the double blinds use alcohol, which is, I think, why Sativex had so many problems with their double blind, is because there was alcohol in it, and the alcohol was affecting the patients as well, especially the little patients. You can't do a double blind on children. You can't do a double blind on pregnant women. They're all afraid of what cannabis is going to do to ruin them. So they feel it's unethical to give this to those patients. And if you follow the money, pharmaceutical companies have been spending millions of dollars yearly to ensure that cannabis legalization doesn't happen. We are one of the biggest threats. And when you see how quick patients step off the pharmaceuticals and how much less expensive it is for whole plant medicine versus those pharmaceuticals, you start to see where all of this interplay truly comes in. That's who's trying to keep it illegal.
That
I agree.
Yeah, that is so true. And on that, we got to take a commercial, and we're going to be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. Stop whatever you're doing right now. Make sure you hit that like button. I know YouTube will appreciate it, and we will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already, and you can check out all the articles that we're covering today on our website at www.highat9news.com.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Coming up next, we are so fortunate enough to have Mrs. Dale Sky Jones joining us today. That's right. She is the chancellor of Oaksterdam University and loves to teach your adolescents all about cannabis. That's right. It is none other than Mrs. Dale Sky Jones.
That sounds so dirty, Jason. You must be 18 to win. All right. So, good morning. And I have two stories, and I am battling even up to this moment on which one I want to talk about, because I was supposed to talk about a Belgian lawmaker who co-founded a medicinal marijuana group without declaring her son's CBD business. If it looks like moral turpitude issues, it almost doesn't even matter whether or not it is. The Belgian member of the European Parliament, Maria Arena, and her businessman son share a common interest. The socialist EU lawmaker, whose properties police raided in connection with the Qatargate corruption scandal this past summer, has taken a prominent role in efforts to harmonize EU cannabis laws in the European Parliament. And her son co-founded a company called BRC & Co. that sells CBD products made from an extract of cannabis that does not cause a high, as they report, that is legal in most EU countries, including Belgium. The cannabis business of her son was already in the spotlight for conflict of interest concerns in June, when it emerged that he co-founded and co-ran BRC & Co. with the son of Michael Claes, the judge leading the Qatargate investigation. Not a good look. Claes did recuse himself shortly thereafter, and then, of course, in July, police raided Arena, discovering 280,000 euros in cash at Lemaire's home next door to hers. No gold bars, though. So the mother and son's interests have sometimes overlapped, including in December in 2019, when Arena hosted an event on cannabis at the European Parliament. The event was organized by Active, a cannabis trade association that lists Lemaire as its president. It was hailed as the first major event at the EU Parliament, and Arena said that her hosting the event did not represent a conflict because it in no way promoted a private interest, but rather a subject of general interest. And her event was actually about medical patients' access to therapeutic cannabis, not about adult use cannabis or CBD. And I am going to pause the story there because while it is an interesting story and so it's difficult, right? Because it usually takes somebody to have something else happen to have an interest in cannabis, per Gigi's, what she pointed out earlier, like most people don't care. So to get someone in Parliament or someone in Congress or someone in the Senate to care, then there's something else going on. Either there's someone that they care about or themselves that are sick and they need it as medicine, or they see the business opportunity. Is it, Main Street, Wall Street, or K Street that influenced and changed the heart and mind? Don't know, don't care. It's tricky, sticky, and sometimes icky. What I really want us to talk about, though, is California Senator Dianne Feinstein, who crossed the Rainbow Bridge this morning, I believe, early morning.
Yep.
I really want to talk about this. Dianne Feinstein came to power when Harvey Milk and Mayor Moscone, San Francisco mayor, were assassinated in SF City Hall. I share many concerns with Dianne Feinstein over the years, including gun safety concerns. I am a woman. I am a mother. She is the first woman to chair the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and later the first woman to serve top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee. I might say, as a Californian too long on the Senate Judiciary Committee. She was the first woman president of the SF Board of Supervisors, the first woman mayor of San Francisco, the first woman elected senator of California. Badass, all in on that. She also led the CIA's detention interrogation problems with waterboarding and torture. What Feinstein has done on some of these issues, I will forever appreciate and honor. And I honor her memory in those ways. As a cannabis policy reform advocate, I am grateful that she is no longer standing in our way. Feinstein said her experience on California's parole board confirmed her belief in the gateway theory, even though it's been widely disproven. And I want to point out that Utah-based General Dynamics and BAE Systems are two of Feinstein's top campaign contributors. Both companies make tanks and other military tactical equipment often used in domestic drug raids. And as drug and marijuana prohibition lose their popular support, as prohibition becomes less popular, it truly were the crony capitalists like Senator Feinstein who continued to champion not only the most un-American of policies at the behest of these companies who had immense profits, again, follow the money, from a 40-year exercise in militarizing every aspect of our community-based law enforcement and our government policies, using federal civil asset forfeiture laws. Law enforcement here in California has absolutely worked within those federal laws up until we made it illegal to do so. And, you know, Feinstein served in the U.S. Senate since 1992. She came out in not only full opposition to legalization. You might remember, as I do, that she chaired the No on Prop 19 campaign in 2010. Prop 19 was the first full legalization initiative that was narrowly defeated largely because of opposition of her, along with our current vice president, who wrote the ballot argument against us. And yes, Governor Newsom was also against it. She called it a dangerous experiment based on false arguments and fake promises. And my question to this group that I would rather discuss than that Belgian European Parliament person is, and Gigi, this question is for you and Jason. How is her getting out of the way? Because I feel like her and Biden are just hand in glove in continuing what I will call a softer, gentler prohibition. Sure, it's not as like, you know, punch you in the nose and you know, semi-automatic weapons on patients anymore. But the detriment is still there. How is this going to affect Washington, in your opinion?
Well, yes, Dianne Feinstein, and as much as you may not agree with her politics, is a big loss. She was a pioneer for women, and she was a lion in the Senate. She truly was. On policy, drug policy, not so great. What is really going to matter with the passing of Feinstein is who comes up behind her.
Mm-hmm.
And as truly as the next senator for California, where this industry is huge, we need them to be somebody who cares about cannabis. Even someone who's indifferent is not going to be helpful. I mean, we truly need somebody who cares about what is going on in the state of California. And that is the only way that I can see cannabis really benefiting. Now, they will benefit, I would say, also from someone under the age of 90. I'm hopeful that California will put forward someone a bit younger, because we have repeatedly said on the show that cannabis is a generational issue, especially when it comes to this Congress, that so many of these folks are 1,000 years old. And actually, you asked for who remembers Reefer Madness. These people do. And so I think getting a younger body in there will also be greatly helpful.
And it's going to be a black woman, says Mr. Newsom, but not anyone who's running. So I'm curious if there's any bets, because it just knocked Barbara Lee out.
Historically, what we've seen in the past is the people who are put in or appointed by a governor when someone passes are not the ongoing senator or member of Congress. That person is a placeholder who knows they're going to be a placeholder. And they generally, if they go for re-election after they're in the special election that comes up, they do not win. So I don't care who the hell they put in the seat for the next year. Frankly, it doesn't matter. Who matters is who comes after.
Yep, I totally agree with that, Gretchen, with that analysis. I'm 100%. And I want to thank Leah Patrick for the super chat, big super chat by Leah Patrick. We want to thank you so much for that, Leah. Yes. And you know,
can I shout out Angela Baca, who wrote this story back in 2014 that I went and dug up to remind myself about how Dianne Feinstein opposed legalization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at that. And you know, the thing about it is this is Dianne Feinstein got elected on the back of the death of Harvey Milk. And the fact that the reason that we even have medical cannabis in the first place is because of the HIV/AIDS epidemic that plagued California and the rest of the world so vigilantly during that time. And so it's very, very hypocritical that she has taken the stance. She has always had this stance. I know back when I first got a store, I had a patient by the name of Judith Kushner, who happened to be a longtime friend of Dianne Feinstein, and she was a patient of mine, and she was dying of cancer. And she had reached out to Dianne numerous times to tell her to please take some type of lead on this issue. She was 100% resistant. Judith Kushner even gave me letters that Dianne Feinstein had wrote to her saying how she was in total opposition to cannabis and was not in favor of it in any way whatsoever. Even if it did help her, she did not really care about that at all. And so on that, I am glad that she is totally out of the way when it comes to cannabis policy. I do wish her family the best and want to, you know what I'm saying, console the losses during their mourning period and whatnot, and be respectful of that. But as far as it comes to cannabis policy, this is actually some good news.
What's the effect on safe banking with this? Is there an effect? Is the replacement person going to vote for safe banking?
There'll just be one less Democratic vote for safe banking, or maybe one more vote for safe banking.
I don't.
This is a
We'll see
judge's
if someone's in
policy.
place by the time that the vote comes up. I mean, it takes sometimes to appoint somebody. It doesn't always happen overnight. We'll see.
Gretchen, you have the count over there. So does this affect the whipping in the Senate in regards to losing her vote one way or the other?
No.
Perfect.
I think it might affect the feelings, though, of some people who felt like they needed to honor her wishes in certain ways, where like some of that personal pressure.
Well,
they feel over time.
While someone might be an opponent to legalization, I have found them not to be opponents to safe banking, because if they can put on the glasses and look at this as a banking bill and not a cannabis bill, then they are not opposed to it. So I don't know if she would have voted against it. The woman has pushed for research bills, and it was semi trying to get on one side of cannabis or the other. I don't know where Dianne Feinstein stood on safe banking. I really don't.
You're talking about someone that a lot of the activists, would totally pander to in regards to, and they viewed progress from her office on cannabis policy when she took out the flyers for the DEA museum, Gretchen.
All I'm saying is just because, and you can look at, good old Daines, who is the lead sponsor of this bill. He is not a proponent of legalization, but he's the lead sponsor on cannabis banking. All I'm saying is that folks might be opposed to legalization, but they are not opposed to banking. So you can't just say that because these people are against cannabis that they are opposed to moving this legislation forward. You can't paint them with that same brush.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I am not mad at that. And with that, we're going to keep this train rolling. We got to get through a couple more stories. Coming up next, he's a PhD chemist with 30 years experience and a deadhead for over 50 years. He's a recognized expert in natural product chemistry, essential oil extraction, and synthesis. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Mark Scialdone. I fucked it up. Oh, Mark Scialdone. Sorry, doctor.
That's okay, Jason. You're getting close. I love the passion. That's the important thing. The message is right. Okay, today my story comes from Adam Jackson at the Green Market Report. It's also about our favorite THC isomer, Delta 8. It's entitled "Texas Court Says No to Delta 8 Ban. Texas's hemp journey hasn't been smooth." A Texas court upheld a temporary injunction against the state ban on Delta 8 THC on Thursday, a win for a coalition of businesses and consumers contesting the ban's legitimacy. The block had initially been issued in response to an enforcement move by the Texas Department of State Health Services and its commissioner. Officials had declared via update to a consumable hemp program webpage that products exceeding 0.3% of Delta 9 THC as legal, but all other THC types, including any concentration of Delta 8, were illegal Scheduled 1 controlled substances. In a lawsuit, a CBD retailer, Hometown Hero, Create a Sig Temple vape store, And consumers Daryl Surif and David Walden alleged that the department did not adhere to the Texas Health and Safety Code and that the Administrative Procedures Acts of rulemaking criteria. The three-membered Third Court of Appeals confirmed that the group possesses the legal standing to dispute the department's decision. They also maintained a temporary injunction. Businesses reportedly cited drops in sales and job cuts due to the ban. They also highlighted personal stories of people benefiting from hemp products, including help with opiate addiction challenges. These testimonies, which included Texas veteran of foreign wars director, a government official, and public affairs, swayed the judges. The justices stated, viewing this evidence in light of the most favorable to the trial of the court's ruling, we conclude that there is some evidence to support the court's finding of probable, imminent, and irreparable injury in the interim. This ruling helps save an $8 billion industry and thousands of jobs, but it also gives adult consumers and veterans continued access to hemp-based cannabis products vital to their everyday lives, according to Hometown Hero CBD in the public statement on Thursday. A commissioner and the agency tried to act outside the legislative process and bounds without appropriate public notice or opportunity to be heard, Amanda G. Taylor, attorney for the challenging group, told Law 360. If the state does not appeal the recent opinion, that the case will transition back to a lower court for trial. Taylor asserts that the case aligns with the 2019 statute legalizing consumable hemp products in Texas. Earlier this month, a federal judge in Arkansas handed a hemp-based product makers some hope after a ruling that new state restrictions on Delta-8 violated the Dormant Commerce Clause and the 2018 Farm Bill. Texas's Texas's hemp journey has been rocky since last year. Last year, a political consultant and former top aide of the state's Agricultural Commission was indicted for felony theft charges and commercial bribery over a messy pay-to-play scheme, calling into question by political opponents of the commissioner's own proximity to the ruse. And that's the story. So basically, another state, I think this is the same thing that happened in Arkansas, is basically overruling a ban that was put on Delta-8 and psychoactive derived products from hemp to keep these businesses going. I'm interested in where they get this number, $8 billion. That seems like a large number for just Texas alone, but I could be mistaken. So that's Dr. Mark from High at 9 News. Be interested to hear what my panel members have to say about, again, another story about Delta-8. Oh, God.
I think they used the $8 million, Dr. Mark, just because it's Delta-8. Just strictly for
$8
branding.
billion, billion with a B.
Yes, exactly.
We believe that market is that big in that state? My gosh.
I mean, I believe the market overall is probably that big in that state, but not just for Delta-8.
Yeah.
You know, cannabis in general. I could say it could be something that size. What are your thoughts on
You
this?
just have a much larger addressable market if you could send these things over state lines, and the only thing that a user or consumer on a web page has to do is just click the yes, I'm 21 or over, and they'll be 2 clicks away from putting in their Visa card number to get products sent to them.
Well, we actually covered a story earlier this week that a study came out showing how that is the case, and that more and more young people are gaining access via the internet to these types of substances. Dr. T, what are your thoughts on this?
This is all because everyone is afraid of Delta-9 THC, and so, but they seem to be okay with an unknown. When people put acid on the cannabis flower and convert CBD to many other isomers, including Delta 8. There are other isomers that are undetected in the sample that we don't know much about. And so we're just saying it's okay for you to use.
They are most certainly being detected. Iso-THC, in fact, Jean, we had iso-THC tested in Aline Hallett's lab, and we find that it behaves a lot like the neuronal signaling impact of typical cannabinoids. We see upregulation of ERK phosphorylation, which is a hallmark of cannabinoid activation, but in an experiment with a very potent CB1 agonist, it doesn't appear to be acting at the CB1 receptor. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of unknown, not really unknowns. We actually know the chemistry and we know the compounds that are in there. What we don't know is what their impact is on long-term human exposure and chronic impact on human safety. We do not know that right now. And because these products are being made, and you said putting acid on CBD flower, they're actually taking CBD isolate, putting it into a huge reaction vessel and pouring acid into that. So they're basically doing active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacture in the back of the barn or airplane hangar or garage or a basement. And all of the regulation that exists in the regulated cannabis market is kind of off the table here. So yeah, leaving bad actors in there or leaving solvent in there or having these mixtures of isomers, which certainly are psychoactive. So now we know, we did some of the first research here, and we're actually investigating one of the other byproducts that's in Delta 8, which is called ISO-4-8. So that is in current investigation in Professor Hallett's lab. So we will publish our results, but this is extremely important research to show that these minor byproducts that are made in this chemical reaction, not extracted from a plant, are active, and we don't know what their long-term chronic impact is on human health.
Nor do we understand common drug interactions.
Exactly. There are many. I attended a conference where they were demonstrating that standard analysis of a product doesn't reveal the other 7 or 8 isomers that may be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because what happens is these isoisomers coalute with the natural isomers,
Right.
and it gives an inflated value on what they think Delta 8 is. You know, the response you get from most Delta 8 users is, yeah, it's not as potent as Delta 9. Well, one of the reasons why is because there's all this other crap that's in there. And when I say crap, I don't mean to use that word in a pejorative way. These are compounds that are made from a derivative of another cannabinoid. They could be miracle drugs of the future. They should be relegated to researchers like myself and yourself to do the research in the lab, in animal models. Unfortunately, that's the way we develop drugs, before we put them into humans. But right now, the fact that these are going into humans without really understanding long-term safety impact is a real roll of the dice. It really is. And all due to lack of access to quality cannabis. If cannabis was available, the market for recreational synthetics would go away.
Well, and frankly, I have no idea what the hell you two have been talking about for the past 5 minutes. I would say go
We do. We
check
know what we're
this,
talking about.
because I do not believe in banning any isomer or cannabinoid. Leave this up to science to determine. I think once you start banning one over the other, it's a slippery slope, and it's not up to lawmakers to figure this out.
So
I
you're
would
fine
much
with
rather leave it up
synthetics?
to the two of you to debate and figure out what should be the way path forward for these products.
So you're fine with synthetics, Gretchen?
I am fine with letting science and the free market determine how we move forward with our cannabis products. Yes, Jason Beck, I'm not for lawmakers determining what should or not go into my body. No, F them.
F them.
Dr. Talleyrand, I believe you. Dr. Mark, you sound like you know what you're talking about. I don't know what half this shit you're talking about means, but I do believe that we should lead by science, and that's the way that we should go on path forward for this plant and for future drugs that may come from it.
Cannabinoids have an incredible safety profile, so it's likely that we're not going to see people dropping dead from doing a Delta 8 pen. But the fact is that these things are acting on different sets of receptors that we just have no idea what the long-term impact is, especially on adolescents and developing minds. I hate to say about the kids, but Yasmin Siddiqui's research shows that certain, elevated use of cannabis during the formative years between gray matter and white matter separation in the brain's development is extremely important, and we need to understand that. It may not be a bad thing, but it may not be a good thing, but we need to do the research to really understand it.
Facts. Very true. Very true. I'm with you guys on all that. I have one quick story for you guys before we close out.
Dude,
Hold
no
on.
time for that.
Hold on. We got to thank Lisa Campanelli for sharing this with us, because this is big news in the medical world. Okay. ANA recognizes cannabis nursing as a specialty nursing practice. The American Nurses Association, which represents around 5 million nurses nationwide, has recognized cannabis nursing as a nursing specialty. And cannabis nursing is identified by the American Cannabis Nurses Association as a special nursing practice focused on the healthcare of consumers seeking education and guidance in the therapeutic use of cannabis. ANA's stated mission is to advance the excellence in cannabis nursing practice through advocacy, collaboration, education, research, and policy development. The organization's goal is to improve health outcomes by enabling pathways for cannabis education with a focus on compassion and social justice principles. And in a quote, ANA is pleased to officially recognize cannabis nursing practice as a nursing specialty, said ANA President Dr. Jennifer Mensick Kennedy. The recognition highlights the essential role and special contribution of cannabis nurses to the healthcare system and promotes enhanced integration of cannabis therapies for healthcare consumers across diverse healthcare settings. Well, I wonder what you doctors have to say about this.
Well, this is great. I mean, it's great that the nurses are always focused on patients, which is nice. And I wish that the AMA had that focus more often. But this is pioneering for us. It's starting to lead the way for the healthcare industries to recognize cannabis as something people are using as medical treatment.
Amen. The nurse is interacting with the patient directly, and sometimes the doctor is a little bit removed from that interaction. So the nurse often knows more about the patient's condition than the doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my mom was a nurse, and I think this is great news for patients across on all scales that the Nurses Association is taking this type of step, especially towards cannabis. And I think this is a more of a first step approach too for the whole medical community overall, embracing cannabis and wanting to learn more about it, because so few doctors actually even understand cannabis and how the cannabinoid system even works in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It's a calling. Nursing is a calling. They don't do that for the money.
Mm-hmm.
They do it because they know that they're saving lives and they're making people's lives better. It's yeah. In fact, my nephew, who's I'm here in Michigan to see get married tomorrow, is a nurse.
Nice.
Male nurse.
Shout out to
There's
all
more
the
male
nurses.
nurses. I think there's incredible opportunity. With a 4-year degree, you can get a really high-paying job in a very incredible, intense, job.
Yeah, I just feel like for a lot of people, taking care of people is something that is either in you or it's not in you. You know what I mean? As far as on a day-to-day basis, as far as a job, I feel like certain types of people that just they couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But nonetheless, thank you guys all. Thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank you to our audience and supporters for always tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you, Dr. T, Dr. Mark, and of course, Gretchen and Dale. We appreciate all of your time. And thank you to our audience for tuning in and watching this. You could be anywhere else, and we appreciate that you're spending the time with us. And thank you, Rico. We hope to have you back in here. We're glad you made it home. And so Rico is back at home with his family, and hopefully he will be joining us next week. But nonetheless,
Rico.
Oh, and of course, we definitely want to thank Leah Patrick for her huge super chat. Big thanks to you, Leah. Thank you all so much for getting high at 9 with us. It's America's #1 daily cannabis news show.